Hi, Robert.
Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm fine. We are in our little kind of virtual studio and trying to develop the online edition of ITFS of Trick Film Festival. And thanks that you join us here to have a talk about your work, but also and especially about the work you are doing at National Film and Television School, because in this pandemic times we need new concepts and new uh, ways of working. You told me in advance that you even changed your shirt for this talk, so thanks very much for this. um, and yeah, so maybe not all of our viewers, because we hope we will reach a big audience, know about your work as an animator. You make a few films, quite personal films as well. So maybe you can just introduce yourself and how you came into animation and now becoming teacher at the NFTS.
Oh well, I've been around a bit now. I started out sort of when the first sort of early computer as personal computers came out. I was kind of in the wave of computer animation with people like Ruth Linford and myself, and started out making films for Channel 4 and the Arts Council in the UK under the Animate scheme. Probably kind of best known for my film Home Road Movies that sort of came out in about 2003. And since then been carrying on making my own films. They tend to be smaller and shorter as I go through life, because I seem to be consumed with so many other things, mainly the National Film and Television School. And also in recent years, a lot of my work now in making films is actually helping people in various different ways. So most recently, I've been working with Jonathan Hodgson on his new film, Rough House, on developing the story and doing bits of editing. So I've kind of become a tutor for filmmakers as well. Nina Gantz has got a new film and she's just sending over early animatics. So I spend a lot of my time, as well as my students, but actual kind of professionals, looking through stuff and giving notes and comments and things like that. But probably most of my time now is spent at the National Film and Television School, which I've now been head of for the last sort of 6 years, but been there now for probably 10 years or so.
Great. We all love Rough House. It opened our last festival, and
Oh,
we
brilliant.
really appreciate this wonderful work. So it's good to know that you're also behind it, and that you help other animators to develop their work. So yes, National Film and Television School, I think it's a very special school, and it's a quite successful school. We all know there are important persons, alumni like Nick Parker, Mark Baker, who's now doing a Peppa Pig or did Peppa Pig. So it's a quite successful school, a postgraduate course as well. Maybe you can just tell me what is so special at NFTS, because it's really successful. And later on, we will show also one Oscar-nominated film and European Animation Award winner. So what is so special?
It's weird. It's hard to put my finger on it, and people ask me a lot. I think but ultimately it comes down to the community. It's a very unusual place. It's very unusual for United Kingdom, this type of college, in that it's quite small. We have 8 students each year, but there's kind of like a community of passionate filmmakers who are all situated there, and everyone helps each other to make these films. So what happens is in the first year, the students do lots of small workshops, and they meet all the other people. They meet other people from other departments like producers, composers, editors, writers. And then in the second year, they form teams. They'll form a little production company, and then they have to pitch to the school their idea. So as well as just being the animator, you've got incredible talent from the composing department and the editing, and they're all working together on this film. So for some, it's quite hard. It's quite a hard thing to do, to to make sure as a director that your voice is seen through the film and it isn't blanded out by having lots of other people. But the people who are really good at it use the resources, use these kind of the skills of the other people to really elevate their films. And so normally when people lead the school, as well as a good film, they normally have a really good collaboration of team members that they'll carry on making films. So people like Daisy Jacobs, who made The Bigger Picture, her follow-up film was almost the same team, same cinematographer, same editor, and they just carried on, and that little production company worked again. I think the other thing is space. We're lucky that we're in a film school. It's big, so films like The Bigger Picture, which consumed a very large studio for 6 months, it would be pretty unlikely anywhere else, especially in the UK, to have that sort of space. So we're really lucky. We're really, really lucky that, again, Facing It by Sam Gainsbourg, which was an unusual film of live action people with plasticine heads. We had the space to be able to film that and try out things that can't be tried out elsewhere.
Great. Yes, so maybe now it's a good opportunity to watch one of the films. We have chosen Head Over Heels by Timothy Record from 2012. Mm-hmm. So it's a stop motion film, like a lot of NFTS films are stop motion films, and it was quite successful, like a lot of other films, as you mentioned some of them. So it was nominated for the Oscars, it won the Cartoon D'Or, and it has also been shown at ITFS. So let's have a look in Head Over Heels.
But the drawback is that you can't use a hammer or a nail gun that you might normally use out. So instead of that, we're going to take this part here and put it plastic clip. Screw it next to this. Oh. Yeah. Oh.
So, Robert, now you have these big space studios, the people, but you can't work like this at the moment. The studios
Yes.
are locked, and you work with quite often. You are working with puppets and with props. That doesn't work at the moment. What are your concepts? How do you
Well,
try to develop this situation?
we well, different ways. One way is that we've always been interested in the concept of play and playing around with techniques and coming up with new things. So even though we can't get into our school, we only stopped for one day. We overnight turned the course to online. And then we were lucky enough, because we're a small team, that we allowed the students to take equipment home. So we had a day where they could take the computers, they could take things like rostrum cameras and stands and things like that. So because we're small enough, we were able to do that. I know in other colleges the thought of giving the students all the equipment and running off. But because we're a small family, we kind of, there's a sort of a trust there. So they do have stuff which they can play around with, and they're being tuned techniques. So actually, in the cycle of things, they're in pre-production, the grad films, and they were greenlit last week, the films. And actually, I have to say that it's been quite incredible, even though the teams are all over the world. We've got people in Singapore, we've got people in Greece. They've all worked separately. They've all been testing. They've all been sending things back and forth. And so it was quite hard to see the difference in the production Bibles and the work that they presented. Our next issue is going to be really how do we make the next bit? And so we're hoping that we're going to form some new form of social distancing filming that actually, you know, one of the good things is that in the second year, all the students get their own offices to work in. So what we're hoping is maybe in June that we'll be able to go back and they'll start, and then so we'll be behind by about 2 months. So we'll probably just extend the course by 2 months, or maybe come up with some other, it's been other talks of how we might solve that. So that's the kind of the main thing. And then we've kind of just been, you know, the other good thing about it, I think, is that because we collaborate a lot, actually it's been quite, I've noticed that the students really enjoy the projects that we've been doing recently in the first years, where there is the collaboration. They feel less isolated. If they're working with, we had one student in London and then one in Athens, and the two of them made a beautiful film over 1 week, just sharing ideas, passing it back and forth. And I noticed that they felt far less isolated by doing that, by working as a team. So that's been very good. So yeah, we've been trying different. We've had Lizzie Hobbs has done a great workshop on the theme of home, and people have done paint on glass, but using their windows to do the animation. We've had absolutely everything. You know, our goal has always been to see what you've got around you and what can you make films out of. And they've kind of really risen to the challenge, and some beautiful pieces of work have still been made, which has been great. But ultimately, yes, our big thing is that we are a community, and we're very physical animation. Even our digital films often have stop motion sets in them and things like that. So we're just hoping that we can go in soon. But a lot of the stuff's been made, puppets to be made by puppet makers in their homes. So we have a model making department, and they were sent out the armatures. So everyone's making everything separately, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to bring it all together.
Very good. And that's also a good message for our audience. We will have a workshop by your colleague, Sean Lee. He will do a masterclass on model making on Saturday, May 9th at 12 a.m. So for all our spectators and viewers, there's a chance to hop into some teaching and from NFTS, and we learn about model making. So you are contributing. NFTS is contributing a lot to this year's online
Oh,
festival.
brilliant. Yeah, no, we're very proud of doing it for you.
Yes, and therefore, thanks very much to share your thoughts with us. And it's also very good to see how productive you and creative you cope with this situation, and that the students are still seem to be quite motivated to do their films. That's
No, they're very motivated. It's a kind of our feeling is that when this is all over, we want to come out and we'll have the films. And we know a lot of other colleges in the UK, I'm not sure, rest have literally closed down till September, but we kind of work in a different model, and we just want to be that when it's over, we're still here standing, and we're going to have some great films, and yeah, some really exciting ideas are coming through. So I'm really excited to share them when it's over.
Yeah, so hopefully next year in Stuttgart, we will see all these new pandemic films. Thanks very much, Robert,
okay. Thank
for
you.
being in our virtual festival. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.